Next, we're going to have Allyne Andrade. She will be speaking on Are Black People and Queer People Allowed to Trip? Allyne is a Black feminist, author, and Brazilian lawyer with a Master's of Law degree from UCLA School of Law, with a concentration in critical race theory and a Master's of Science in Human Rights Law at the University of Sao Paulo. She was also a research assistant at Promise Institute of Human Rights at UCLA. She has served with several nonprofit organizations since 2003. As well, she has published 2 books in Brazil about race and education. She is an author of Public Ministry and Ethnic Racial Equality in Education, Contributions to the Implementation of Brazilian Education Law Attended by Law, 2015, and co-editor of Ethnic Racial Relations in Education, Challenges of Implementing Law, in 2016. Please help me welcome Allyne Andrade.
Hi, hello everyone. First, I would like to say thank you to Bia to invite me to come here. I was very difficult to come here. I was very afraid to come here because of many reasons. First, I was thinking like, oh my gosh, what are you gonna talk in front of all those people? Maybe, do I have something to share? And I was very afraid, and so I would like to say thank you again to Bia, because she was very patient with me. I was not being difficult, I was afraid. So I was really thinking about to come and what to talk. And second, I wanted to say to allow requests for the younger than me and the older than me to speak. That's what normally we do in our culture. So I would ask a request to speak. And third, I would like to say thank you for the people who allow me to cut the line and have lunch first, so I could eat to be here in time. Thank you very much. So my talk is about Are Black and Queer People Allowed to Trip? And I was thinking, when Bia invited me to the conference, so first I will talk about a little bit about myself. So I'm a Brazilian woman, Black feminist. I entered to the Black movement as I was in high school in 2003. So to start to fight about affirmative actions in higher education. So I entered to the movement, and I was myself as a student of affirmative action program in university. And since this time, I studied law and racial conscious remedies. And all my research was about race conscious remedies and how you get diversity in power space. But when I started the Black movement, my first concern was about race, because race was very strong. So many people doesn't know, but many people don't know, but Brazil has 54% of Black population. We are the largest Black community outside Africa, and normally people doesn't know about that. And Brazil was also the last country to abolish slavery. So my grandma was a slave, was born a slave. So race was very important to me. I come from a lovely and Black large family from the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro. And race was very important to us because we have to learn how to navigate in a world that is built for you to don't develop your own potentialities, your own kindness, and so it's very hard to navigate in this world. So race was what came first to me. But then when I started doing the Black movement, I started to saw that, okay, race is not everything. There's more things in the world. And I started to talk about gender because the Black movements are very, very patriarchal. And you have our version of Black patriarchy that is telling that our communities are broke because we have women ruling the community, and I mean, there were women who brought us here, so I thought maybe there is something wrong here. So I have really to learn about gender. And when I started to talk about gender, so I started to talk about diversity, and I went to Thailand, and it was like a trip. I was on vacation and everything. And I realized that I saw trans people, transgender people, travesti, how you say in Brazil, there is like different categories, transsexual, transgender. But you have a word in Portuguese that is travesti. So in libraries, hotels, they are working at daylight. And I realized that I came from a neighborhood that you don't see transsexual and transgender people working like in a public library or in a hotel or in a day job who is not related to arts or to like hair care or something like this, because our country is very, very, very homophobic and transphobic. So I realized these people has no rights for the city because they cannot work, they cannot walk safely in the daylight. So then that was like the first time, and this was 10 years ago, that this shaped me, not because before I was talking a lot of like more LGBT, and not the Chi community in Brazil, but then I started to think about the Chi community and how I never had a colleague in school or in university that was a trans person, and there is something wrong. They are smart, right? They want to go to the university as much as I want. Some of them don't want, but some of them want, and what they are. And then I had some friends, and there was trans people, and I was with them with their outing or doing their transition, and I learned a lot about that, and so I started to work with trans community. So I'm talking about all this just to say that I'm in the process of learning. It's not that I know everything. I'm a straight person. Sorry for myself sometimes. And not always I fully understood what means be a queer people, what means be trans people. So I'm learning, but I'm a very lucky person, and I had a good friend. Her name is Erica Malunguinho. I didn't put her name in the presentation, but I can give the name. She's an amazing Black trans woman, and she's the first deputy, state deputy who got elected in Brazil, trans person who got elected. And I work in her campaign, and I'm going back to Brazil. This is my last, not last, but it's like my last week in the United States. I'm going back to work with her. So I'm going back to work with trans people in Brazil, and I'm very happy that I had this opportunity because I'm learning a lot. And they know they are counting on me as a lawyer, but I think I'll learn more than I can really share with them. And I'm really glad to do that. And I'm really glad that the last event I'm doing here in the United States, I came here to do my master at UCLA, is a queering event. So I'm really learning a lot. And so now, talking about that, and I'm talking about myself because I really believe in storytelling. I really believe that because you have all these stories about what is a Black person, what is a Black South American, what is a mulata, there is a word that we don't like, just to say to you, or about Brazilian and South American culture, it's very important to share narratives that can counter the stereotypes that we normally have about people and about Black people and Black women. And that's why I'm sharing my story, but also because I think it's important to ground myself from where I'm speaking, and maybe the bias I have from this place is not because I'm a Black woman that I don't have bias. And I really think this is important to know how my knowledge was built. So I'm a lawyer, and I'm studying law for a long, long time, and I'm very interested in how law creates and engenders inequality and how law reinforces it. And that's what brought me to start to study drug policy. Because at the beginning, the war on drugs in Brazil it's very hard, and for me personally, was very painful to talk about drugs. And now we are talking here about psychedelics, but I have to tell you, in my community, there is no difference for that. You are in drugs, you are lost. I know this is not true, but that's what I heard when I was growing up, and we have to be awake. like in order to succeed, and not awake for truth that maybe you don't know, that the spirits are bringing to you. You have to be awake for the reality, and the reality is not that beautiful. And that's why people normally tell to us. But so I have all these stereotypes about drugs, like that people who are on drugs, using drugs, they are not good, they are lost in life, they are not good fathers and good parents and whatever, and good members of our community who need like strong people to endure and to help us. But, so life is more than what you think and what I think personally. And then I had a very good, a lovely person who used cocaine for a long time, and I'm just not talking the name of this person because this is about me, not about her. And she helped me to deconstruct all the stereotypes I have about drugs, because you know what? She was working. She was a good person. She was helping everyone. And I started to think, and most of people were having like a lot of stigma when realized this person was using cocaine, and they are trying to put them outside our community and not as a respectful leader because this person used cocaine. And I mean, I thought, I was 16 years old when I realized that this person used cocaine, and I said, okay, there is something wrong with all these things that people has taught to me. Maybe I'm missing something. I mean, I cannot see the human about that, and sometimes you feel some things, but you don't have names for that. And when you are able to give names for things, is that you start to understand things. And then really I realized that we are in a very punitivist culture, and people, I was just talking with Bia in the car, people are very fast and quickly to judge and to kind of condemn people to a civil death, that because the person has used drugs or has a different sexual orientation or believe in something different, she or he is not important enough to be theirs. We have nothing to listen to about them and not to learn from them. And I realized that this is a very punitivist discourse, and I have to get rid of it if I want to learn and if I want to really live the life I tell people that they should live. So if I tell people about diversity, about equality, I have to all the time challenge my own knowledge and the things I built. So that being said, I will start with my now real presentation. So the objective of this talk is about examining how societal privilege plays out in the psychedelic movement and what that specifically means for Black and or queer people, how the war in drugs influence our communities in psychedelics, and how racism, sexism, heteronormativity, and classism, I put some words in Portuguese, I just realized now, intersect and influence the experience of Black and queer communities in Brazil and United States. So I'm using this, I really like Bob Marley, do you remember redemption songs, the songs of freedom? So, but I will start with the songs of fear. So, about the things that we learn in Brazil about drugs. So Jesus, Brazil prison population reached 7,026 inmates in June 2016. Now we have a new release from 2018. You have like 100,000 people in jail in Brazil. So according to a study released by Brazil Ministry of Justice, Brazil represents the third largest prison population in the world, only behind the United States and China. In China, that doesn't count. They have really more people than us. So it's like between Brazil and the United States. And of this incarcerated population, 64% of prisoners are Black people. So Blacks and mixed race, as you say in Brazil. So this is a real pictures about a prison in Brazil. So we really had overcrowded units. So right now we have like a 300,000 lack of spots in Brazil. So you have more 3,000 people that will have space to put it. So that's all the like jails look like in Brazil. And so I'll start reading my things, otherwise I'll lose myself, so I'll go. So Brazil, 89% of the country's prison population are housed in overcrowded units. Comparing dating from December 2004 to June 2006, the vacance deaths rose from 250 to 350. These circumstances result in the spread of disease and difficulties in controlling prisoners. Another phenomenon caused by this lack of infrastructures is the rise of criminal faction gangs, which offer protection to inmates when the authorities do not. In the eye of many prisoners, this is a way to survive the harsh conditions in prison. And why I'm talking about overcrowded units? Because most of the overcrowded problem in Brazil results from Brazilian drug policy. So out of three inmates in Brazil, one is in prison because the law about drugs in Brazil. So we have more than 30% of our prisoner population is because they're accused of being drug dealers or being drug dealers. And this is also a trick about Brazilian law systems. Because the Brazilian law places no difference between what is a drug dealer and what is a person who is using drugs. So the judge can decide what amount of drug it's enough to judge you as a drug dealer or as someone who is just using drugs. So the distinction between users and drug dealers is completely subjective and fluid in the terms of the law. This difference depends on the judge's discernment based on criteria such as the amount of substance, the location, condition which the action was developed, and the agent's background. In the absence of any objective parameter, the subjective criterion of the policeman prevails. Consequently, this creates an adequate environment for racism, classism to flourish. Data clearly shows that whites in the richer regions of the cities are considered users, even with the largest quantities of drugs. However, blacks in poor regions tend to be considered as trafficking dealers. So what's happening in Brazil? So imagine I'm with marijuana, or I'm with LCG, or cocaine, or whatever drugs. So if I'm a white person in a rich neighborhood, what the police think is that it's normal that I have more quantity of drugs because I'm a white rich person. I'm not going to the favelas or to the poor zones in the city many times to get the drug I need. So I go, get a lot of amount, and go back to my home and do this as a user. But if you're a black person in a poor community, the favela is kind of near you. You can get these drugs. You have access to drugs, and you are supposed to do not have enough money to have this quantity of drug. So you are supposed to be a drug dealer. So that's how they do the justice things in Brazil. And this is a problem. Imagine if I work and I just want to get marijuana and I don't want to go many times and I just save my money and buy a large quantity so I can use in my home and I don't have to go in a dangerous place. But the judges don't think about that. And what's happened now in Brazil, that we have most of the people who are in jail are first-time offenders, arrested alone, unarmed, with small amounts of drugs, no connections to organizations crime, and with arrests based solely on police testimony. So police is like the king of the evidence. So the queen of the evidence. So if police says you are a drug dealer, it means that you are a drug dealer. And that's why, because of the change of this law changed in 2006, that's why the units get overcrowded and you have all these problems in Brazilian society right now about crimes. And also, We have, this is also a picture in Brazil. You have a movement called React or You'll Be Killed. And it's like a Brazilian, not a Bresillian version because it's previous to that, but you can relate to Black Lives Matter in Brazil. But they are just more like react or you'll be killed. So if you don't react, someone is gonna kill you. And this is against Black genocide in Brazil. So if you're a Black person in Brazil, we have 3 times more chance of getting killed by the police than a white person. And this is, I don't want you to get this wrong. Brazil has done many things before the impeachment and the cup we have in Brazil, but we have many things for COPA and equality. So we have like a lot of affirmative actions. The law is changing about queer people. You have gay marriage, but you have 2 things that is not getting better in Brazil. This is about drug policy, the war on drugs, and the second one about genocide and police brutality and violence. And this is not only against Black people. I'll talk this very soon, about this very soon. So, but you have this rate about people being murdered in Brazil. So we have like, this is really, almost every 7 minutes you have some Black people being killed in Brazil. So it's a lot. We are always mourning someone. And normally we have no evidence and the police normally don't get any problem. They don't even investigate the problem you have. And I also want to talk about something that when I talk about this population in prison, half of this people has never been in front of a judge. So they are temporary prisoners. So they are in prison waiting for being judged. So this doesn't mean like, because sometimes you say like, oh my gosh, all these people are in prison. And it's because, they are bad people. Brazil has really huge criminal hate, but it's not only about that. Because more than half of these people are not condemned yet. So we don't know, actually, if they are guilty or not. And they are going to a prison who is dominated for crime. Because the state cannot get control. Imagine it has no space. Do you think the state can control these people or even disciplinate or educate? I'm against like disciplinate and educate, but they cannot do anything with these people. So normally to get protection and to stay alive, we need gang protection. So sometimes you are not involved with crime. You are just a user. You are going to a jail and now you are in contact with a crime because you have no choice. In order to survive, you have to, at least there is only one way that you are not involved with that, with the gangs, if you are Christian or Protestant. So many people has to declare they follow Jesus if they don't want to get involved in crime. And this is something also very difficult in Brazil because there is a lot of judgment about queer people. So it is more difficult for queer people if you go in jail, or you get to a gang, or you declare yourself that you are not having your sexual orientation, really. And this is true for men prisons. For women prison is really different. So it's interesting because normally women they have less gangs inside the jails, the prison system, and they are more open for like queer people. So many times even like trans men prefer to go to women prison because it's just a better place to be. If there is a possibility that is a prison is a better place. And I also want to show you that this is, I'm sorry, I know you just have lunch, but this is like 133 people died in 2017 inside a prison. This is a real picture of the bodies who were collected. You just have right now, we have a problem also in Brazil prison system. We have like 7 people who get killed inside the prison because gang problems. So we really have a system out of control because the law about drugs is reinforced gang power because it's putting a lot of users to deal with these people. Of course, if you have regulation, if you have laws about that, you don't have to go and enforce and you are not giving money for crimes. Or even if people can grow it at our house and use this like knowing related with a crime scene. So because you cannot have this in your home, because in Brazil, if like imagine a neighbor don't like you, he can call the police saying like you grow mushrooms or you grow marijuana or whatever, and you can get in jail. So people normally try to go to these professional sittings, and they are most related to crimes. And this is really giving more and more power to these criminal gangs, and we have really a lot of problems and crimes and sadness in the use of drugs in Brazil. And for poor communities, this is something totally different for rich communities, but I'll talk about this. And also, we have another problem is about the violence against trans, queer, gender people. So Brazil is the place who has more reported killings of trans and gender in the world. And I would like to say reported because many countries just don't give this data and you don't know. But I mean, even if there is more people who don't give the data, this is not a nice place to be. So it's very dangerous to be a queer people in Brazil. People can really suffer violence because they are doing their outing. So it's something really difficult because sometimes you think like, oh, these people are cowards. Sometimes it's about being alive or not. It's not only, of course, you have many powerful people who are enduring this identity, who are fighting. You have a very strong LGBTQ and queer movement in Brazil, but it doesn't mean that it's not dangerous. And sometimes people get, we are like very judgmental about people, if they're outing or not, if they are heteronormative or not. But I've cheated myself. And right now I'm 33 years old and I start to think that people are hetero, people are not queer because they really don't think deeply about it. Because if you really think, maybe there is no point. Like, I like people, can I not fall in love with a woman, or how? But sometimes, like in my family, because I'm a very strong woman, I like to drink, I like party, and my brother is very conservative, so he got married when he was like 19. I love my brother, but he's very conservative, and I grew up with people saying that I'm the man in the family because I like to go out, I date a lot. I'm not confirming that. That's what they say. Like, I date a lot, I like to drink, I like to party, I'm always moving, and so I'm the man in the family. And I was thinking, and when I was a teenager, I was kind of proud of that, because it was mean that I was more cool. Like, I mean, I was the man. But now I say, is this make sense? No sense. So I always think like about heteronormativity and how the way you talk about energy, what is masculine is what is feminine. So it's because I'm an independent person, I'm an independent woman, I have to be the man of the family. And we start to question these things. And I think it's very important to learn it, identity, even you have or not a sexual orientation as a straight or a gay, but to really challenge these stereotypes. And I think for me, the queer movement is about that, to challenge these stereotypes, but also to stand by these people, because it's very difficult and it's dangerous for them. Because sometimes you just say, let's queer something, we are queering, but when they need help, are you there to help? Can you really challenge the things you believe to help these people? And I start to challenge myself about that. And also the things I reproduce, there is violence against queer and transgender people. So why am I proud to people saying that I'm the man of the family? That means I'm not respecting fluidity and people, the questioning and all the knowledge I learned from queer people about what's binarism means. So I start to question myself about that. And we have this. So right now, just last week, Brazil Supreme Court vote that homophobia is a crime. So I also have to tell you that most of the data you share in Brazil about homophobia and transphobia is not really occurred because you don't have, until now, we still don't have it. I mean, they have a hearing in the Supreme Court of Brazil that is like the constitutional court. So homophobia will be a specific crime right now. But before it was not. So not all the time police report like the rate crimes against queer people. So we don't really have accurate data. But this is like the one that's like LGBTQ community, the gay group of Bahia, that is like the oldest gay group in Brazil, has given to us like you have like 420 people of LGBTQ community in Brazil died by homicide or suicide in 2018, followed by homophobia and hate crimes. So that is the report released this Friday, like the last Friday. But also we have to say that Brazil has really a huge gay pride parade. It's very strong. Like this is a real picture of the gay pride parade. You have like normally 1 million people. And because of this strong movement, they help a lot of things in Brazil, not only for their own community, but for all Brazilians. And if it was there for own community, it was enough. But I mean, they did more. And so we have a great HIV/AIDS program because the discussion of the LGBTQ community, and there is a lot of stigma about HIV, but the HIV is rising in Brazil because of old married couples, not because queer community. Many people get mistaken by that. And you have this majority voting to saying that now homophobia is a crime in Brazil. The law is not ruling, but maybe next month we have it. And I think this is important. But Latin America offers a very contradictory narrative about violence. So at the same time, you have a lot of, I put this, I can give this. There is like a map of sexual orientation in this side that is very good, so I can share with this to you. But at the same time that America is known as the region with more LGBT-friendly laws, is the place with more violence rates. So it's very difficult to be in this position in Brazil. And I wanna pay a tribute here. So these are people who were killed in Brazil, queer people who were killed in Brazil. I'll share the history with them. The first one, this one is Mateusa in red. She was killed in a, how can I say this? In a favela in Brazil when she was going to buy marijuana. And because she was scared, the drug dealer killed her. The second one, the black woman with the graduation cap, is Luana Barbosa. Luana was killed by the police. When she was stopped, they thought because they started to beating her because she was a queer person, and they thought she was a criminal. But in fact, she was a student. She just graduated, but she was killed by police violence. The third one, this one, the picture is blue, is Marielle Franco. Marielle Franco was a councilwoman, very loud speaker about LGBT pride, about drugs. They were against their own drugs, and she was killed. And the other picture is about Lorival. So Lorival has a great history. He was a man, a trans man, and he lived 50 years. So Brazil has no trans law when he was like young. So 50 years as a man, but he was born as a woman, and he managed to have like a man, like played the role as a man, gender. He was very proud about his identity. But we have a problem right now because when he died, people realized that he was born a woman. And you have a lot of problem because when he died, the law doesn't allow to put his social name in the grave because he didn't change his document. So we have to go to a court to fight in order that he was grave as a man. And that is the kind of things that you can go through in Brazil if you're a queer person. And I just want to pay a tribute to them because we are talking about this, but there's people who paid with their life for our liberty to choose who you are and to play the roles you want to play. So I just want to pay a tribute to them, in honor to them, because they stand by us. And yeah, so I'm about to finish. But I want to talk a little bit about the songs of freedom. So I just like this, Jimi Hendrix, just like this. I just put it because it's really nice. So I want to talk about a little bit about safe space. I think in our community, you always listen like drugs is really bad. Drugs are bad. And these white supremacists are trying to put drugs in our community so they control us. Or men want to put women to go through drugs so they can get sexual favors or sexual harass her. That was the kind of thing I was listening about. And I think what white supremacy do with us is because each of us only learn one side of history. And I'm talking this also about myself because the first time I used LSD, I was in the marijuana march, Marcha da Maconha in Portuguese. So you have like the march to legalize drugs. And I was like, this is so white. I mean, what? Like just white people can go to the streets in a country that is like, it's a crime to use drugs, to say they use drugs and they are open to, like, I'm not doing, I have nothing to do there. I was telling this to my friends, like I'm not going, but I work in Brazilian Criminal Sciences Institute and you have the Forum of Brazilian Drug Policy there. So it's like we have amazing people, most of them white, but amazing people who are working with drug policy and really trying to change police laws and the stigma, educating people about drugs and psychedelics, about everything. And I worked there for 3 years. And I never use drugs with them. I just say, people, you do it because you are white. And you know nothing is going to happen with you. But for me, I'm in a black community. If I go in the effect of drugs to my house, I can die. And I'm not ready to die. I mean, I can die, but I'm not ready yet. So this is not a safe space for me. A space who was very white. We have like 40 specialists. I have doctors. I have people from religions. I mean, I could use drugs with them that I know they would care and nothing gonna happen with me. I mean, that was not intended to happen. And that I really can't trust these people. But this was not a safe space for me because I thought because they do not suffer the consequence because they are white. And I could suffer the consequence because I'm black. And it took me a while to decide. But that day they convinced me to go to the march. So I went there. And people was using LSD and I was looking and I said, they were so white. But guess what? When I went to the march, I saw families, I saw native people. I saw whole families who was using like healing, drugs to healing, and kids who start to have like less convulsions and to start to sometimes even walk or have more, like really healing because they are using drugs for healing. I saw black communities, I saw poor communities. Okay, I have to end, I'm finishing. Poor communities and everything. And that day, I was in the street. I was not in a rich white neighborhood. I was not with all the doctors, but that day, I felt I was in a safe space because I saw the diversity. I've always been like seeing white people talking about, but I never seen by myself this space. And I said, if all these people are here standing for a cause, this is a safe space for me. And I just want to tell this to you that for you really think that one size does not fit all. So you really have to think about what is a safe space and what is really, how you can really educate people about that. And to end, I really like these books. Look for this, is Unapologetic. So they are calling like the queer movements to keep our movement practice to honor the contribution of Black feminists and LGBTQ movements to the Black radical tradition. So there is really a call for our movements to get out together and learn with one another, and we strengthen our cause. And I think you have a lot to learn. And I also want to talk about this because the danger, and like we have Chimamanda Adichie talk about that, about G's history and white supremacy, is that because of white supremacy, I was myself with a lot of stereotypes, and I could not learn about his psychedelics movement. I could not allow myself to trip because I was not sure enough. I was letting the stereotypes play a role, and I was not really seeing the reality or further away from what normally people talk about this. And I also wanna make this as an invitation to us. Like, as you live here, you don't come in the same way as you enter. So you really learn with people who are here. And also, for us, if you care for queer people, if you care for psychedelics, for us to try to build a non-punitivist community. So really have patience and forgiveness to all of us. We are in the process of learning, and even if someone is speaking something you don't agree, and of course, if you are speaking something wrong, you have to be open to listen that you are wrong. And some people are open to tell you that you are wrong, and vice versa, so we can learn with each other. And I also want to give some recommendations about this. I'm not here to teach you. I mean, my speech is in this, so I don't have nothing to tell more, but I'm not here to teach you how is diversity, like, oh, have black or woman of color speaking your conference, and have a black friend, like, as woman of color is a token, or you start to talk about woman of color, and then you live your life. Because sometimes people say that, no, I acknowledge all the inequality we have, and just say, no, you know, by the way, you are talking about drugs, and yeah, 7% of the people who are in jail is black. So I'm just like, really, let's try have a real transformation and learn with each other and go beyond the stereotypes. And this is for white people, for people of color, for straight people, for queer people, and everything. So I'll finish because I received 2 times the paper of ending, and so I'm ending. Thank you. So now we have questions? Is this? Okay.
Hi, thank you for sharing. I have 2 questions that are like really different. So one question is about Black policemen and their role with Black genocide. Do they participate still with the Black genocide? And another question is, are there laws and regulations that protect indigenous people outside of the metropolitan community with their ayahuasca practices? That's it.
So about Black policing, and so right now, Brazil has, it's very known as doing like racial profiling. So it's very common in Brazil that you get stopped by police because you're Black. I mean, no, sometimes they even like go to a bus and ask only Black people to be like policing and everything. Actually, the law is not protecting us from that, because right now, the police has something that they can say, they have an excuse of punibility to say that if you are in a fight, you are in a war, you are like doing kind of self-defense. So, and most of the killing by the police is not even prosecuted. So we really don't know how the crimes was. We just know like the police kill people, because sometimes they enter, because the things that, the way that things are organized in Brazil is that like normally the drugs are sold in favelas, and we have this place that you go and you buy and is related to crime. But there is another like drug users that you can get it in your home if you are like rich and you call, and this is kind of is safer. but this is normally for white people. So in black communities, and sometimes we everything like police changing the crime scene to plant drugs, so to say that the person, because they kill and they discover like the person is innocent. So they plant drugs and they plant everything, and now we have a president and who think that these people should be killed. We have a phrase in Brazil, very terrible, that say that good criminals are dead criminals. So the population is very supportive also about those people being killed. And the black population is not, of course, but not all the black population. Some people also support this kind of public security policy. So we really have like a really problem about that. And even like Brazil changes a lot in 20 years. We have a lot of conquers about education, gender, LGBTQ, but violence, police violence is, you are going like back toward. And also now we have a president who support that. He was elected saying that he would endure this public security policy. And also in my state, I'm from Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro is known as the most violent state. We have a governor who is also supportive of that. And he is just, people denounce him in the, what's the name of this? Organization of American Court, because he was himself in a helicopter shooting people in poor commodities in Brazil. He was inside the helicopter. He was not in the phone saying, go and fight. He was himself playing with a gun and like just watching people. So we have a huge problem right now in Brazil. It's not really, we don't know what to do, but we are fighting. We have these black movements. You have queer movements fighting. You have people who want to abolish slavery, change the drug policies and everything. About the ayahuasca community, I think I want to be able to answer this question, but I will tell you that as a lawyer, in my practice as a lawyer, I never got someone who was being prosecuted by ayahuasca. But I cannot say that I haven't seen a law regulation. The problems right now in indigenous communities in Brazil, they are not with the same law as us. They have their specific law, but also they are dangerous in Brazil right now, because also this president, who is a very right fascist, far-right fascist person, he also want to enter the indigenous community because they are in lands that are very rich lands. They have golden, they have minerals, they have a part of Amazon, and they're really trying to go and get this richness. So I'm not sure about ayahuasca, but I know they are trying to get through these communities and the lands. Okay.
Let's have space for another question. I'll answer you inside. Just give space for more questions.
I think there's no more questions.
Is the legal system anything but the dramaturgy of entrenched political oppression? It seems like here and elsewhere, the front line of the legal system is often involved in criminal behavior. They're the first to kill citizens and the last to stop defending tyrants. And the professional legalists seem to just do a great job of dissimulating or occluding the fact that this keeps going on.
I'm a critical race theory because I want to change that, but it's true. I think we have to be honest, like the legal profession and lawyers, like, I mean, you acknowledge, when I went to the university, so I went to the university like, oh, I'm be a lawyer, I'll do social justice and blah, 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 you change the world, and you know, these things that you believe when you are 18 years old. And I remember that I entered the university, and the first week, my professor of civil law told me that law is about maintaining the status quo. It's not about changing. We are here to work for give more power for people who already has power. And this was really hard to me to understand, but I have another friend that is Luciana Zafalon. She's not here, but she's a great speaker about drug policy in Brazil, that she told me something. Allyne, you are in law school, you are a black woman. Learn how to deal with people because they are the ones who have the power, and you have to know how dirty they are. Don't believe they really want people to have rights. And this was important to me to understand that I'm navigating the world, so law is not going to revolution in the world. Normally, law is the one you have the French Revolution, then the law is go and write the Constitution. I mean, if you don't cut some heads, I mean, the revolution cannot be done. So it's not by writing laws. so it's about that. Do I answer your question? Do you have more things? Again.
Hi, and thank you so much for being here and for speaking. As you were talking about your own journey in finding a safe place to explore these experiences and your work in allyship with the trans community, do you have any recommendations for how to use our intersectional identities to create safe spaces for one another when there are such high stakes and different consequences between like racial lines and between lines of sexual identity?
I do. I have like these recommendations like, invite more people of color, listen, read to black feminists. But what I learned that is really useful, that we have to know each other. I just know if I'm a safe place, that if I really know you. And this means like, do I know if what university you attended or where you work, or if you normally eat avocado or not, if you are allergic to mushrooms or not, if you get sick, do I know if you have allergy of diclofenac or not? Do you know what? Because when you don't know people, and I have some friends who say that you have to know people because in the revolution we have to run, and then if you don't know what house you can hide yourself. And I like to believe that I like I've been like in an action movie, and then I know that the place. I just like to believe that one day this will come. But I believe that I have to learn to really know these people and become to know them well, to know if they are good, if they are feeling good or not. And you are not becoming friends with everyone, but just to know, like, I think the safe space is about knowing. We are in a society right now, everything's about consumption. You have consumerism. We have very light and weak ties. So, like, you have this friend that you go and you drink gin tonic, and you have other friend that you go about psychedelics conference. Everyone has own limits. You have to work with people limits. But I believe that it's a safe space that you listen to each other, because if I'm not able to listen with my trans folks, and my trans folks, white folks are not able to listen to my experience, we cannot build a safe space to us. And also, this is about knowledge. So if I don't read what you are producing, or I don't listen to you, I'm not learning anything. So I think it's about that, and build small communities, strong communities. I think we are safer if you do that. And I think there is no way, because I'm seeing Bia here. I just have one thing to tell. I'm seeing you. Okay, she want to ask me something.
Eu quero te pedir para você falar uma coisa assim, uma esperança, uma coisa positiva em português, na sua conclusão.
Okay. Okay. So what I want to tell you about safe space before attend be a request is that safe space is not about the absence of conflict, because normally, and I know this is comfortable for people who is talking about diversity, people now really like to talk about unconscious bias, like, I discriminate because I don't know. These structures is inside me and I have no guilty. I'm white, but in fact, I'm just a victim of white supremacy, just as everyone else. I know a lot of people believe that, and it's true, but it's also about power. So if you want to create about, sometimes I get angry. Like I'm angry. I'm mad. I'm mad with white people. I'm mad with black men. We don't have a lot of black men here, but sometimes you get mad at black men, and black men get mad about black women. And I mean, so you have to also be ready to strengthen and to listen and to transform this energy of angry. Like all the times you get like mad with each other, and if you wanna feel comfortable, you are just comfortable in the skin you already have. So if you have to disconstruct yourself, not all the time you'll be comfortable. And you have to be ready for that and open for that. And for me, many people talk about inclusion, but I mean, there is not a lot of space in the world. So someone has to get down for someone to get up. Unfortunately, it's not as get down to say that, oh, now you don't have nothing and I have everything. But when I say get down, is that talk you say like, I'm entitled to rights. Sometimes you are not entitled. You are just having privilege, and you are mad because you are losing your privilege. And Jesus, when you get down, actually you are getting equality, and I'm getting up. So I think we have to understand that, and this is important to build safe space. But there is no more question. There is more question. Okay, one more. Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, it's a black man it's my brother. I want you to make a question, can you? He's leaving. It's just you and my brother, I don't want to leave you without talk, I'm sorry. I'll be quickly, I promise.
All right, quick. Thank you for making the time. Thank you for speaking with us today. One of the things in what you're talking about, different elements socially, I wanted to see where, as far as like media and art and entertainment, what role they play in some of the social challenges you're talking about with the stigmas of how if it's a black person with drugs or a white person with drugs, is there really much of a voice for people through art, through media, through entertainment?
So I think like as a lawyer, I've been thinking a lot how law is not enough, and even like social science and everything, how art is important. Because many people has different way to trip. So you can trip with a book, we can trip with psychedelics, we can trip in your religion. Have you seen this black woman in Protestant church, how they dance? Do you think this is normal? Do you think they are not possessed with something? I think they are tripping, really, I really believe. I'm Protestant, I really think they are tripping. So we have like a lot of way to really be out of our experience, and I think this art is very important. With that, we don't have media in Brazil, like the media is most white, and is the one who is going through with these stereotypes and the stigma about drugs and drug dealings about black people. But now we have internet that is not always a good thing, but we have this space that you can really be connected with culture, with native culture, black culture. And I think this is a way to expand our minds and to really challenge and to change the way you look at things. And sometimes you look, but you don't see. So I think art is a way to see and not only look. And this is, for me, it's been important. So I'm to capture like all the inequalities, I have to read literature, like my own knowledge is not enough. So I have to go to the theater, to the movies, I have to listen to music and learn with different cultures. So I think it's very important. So to end, now I'm finishing, really. And Bia asked me to tell something in Portuguese that is important to me. We have something in Portuguese, and I'll say, and I want you to repeat. And it's uma sobe e puxa a outra. 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 Thank you. So just so you to know is that I'm standing up and I'm bringing you with me. So thank you.